Mm-mm. All right. All right. So here we are on our calendar. This week was a big week. Um, there was the rush to meet yesterday's deadline. And, chairmen were having to say, listen, if we don't get through everything on the agenda today, um, the bills are going to die. And I'm sure many did. But um, unfortunately, there was one that didn't die, that made its way through, which is Senate Bill 1. And really, what we have left here to get done is Senate Bill 1 and 1461. Those are the main bills that are having a significant impact on us. Um, And by the way, I just want to let you know that if you use the chat feature today, you're going to have to wait for me to look at it because I'm on my own managing the technology today, which should be a scary thought. But at any rate, yesterday was the committee report deadline. Next Tuesday is the last day for third reading. So all the bills that made it through committee yesterday and Wednesday, or even some of them prior, will have to be heard for second reading on Monday and third reading on Tuesday. And that's it. Then we go into conference committees. And I hope you know what committee can mean to bills, um, in that we have 4 people really doing the negotiating on those. Let's see here. And then most of what we're hearing is they're going to be done early, but their deadline to adjourn sine die is Tuesday, April 29. But most people expect they're going to try to get done next week because they're coming up on a holiday weekend, etc. So, all right. All right. So you can see here the list of problematic bills that we started session talking about. Senate Bill 1, 1402, and 1461 were left on the list from our last briefing. Since that time, 1402 has been merged as an amendment, essentially, to Senate Bill 1. So Senate Bill 1 is the vehicle for all of the tax reform, and it was heard on the floor the other day for second reading, and then yesterday for third reading, and Wednesday. And then yesterday, the Senate filed a motion for concurrence, which means everybody's in agreement. It will now go to once that vote is done, which we expect it will receive the majority of the yays on that. Then it will go to the governor for signature. Now, before we dive into Senate Bill 1, I'd like to update you on 1461 road funding. This is the bill that began in the House with Representative Pressel at the helm as the author. And we worked on that all the way through. We knew it was coming. We started working on it before session. And it was amended from its original form while still in the House. The original form required us to basically empty our accounts, but for 15% as an operating balance. It was amended to say that we would expend 30% of our budgets into a new road fund. That's how it left the House. Once it made it to the Senate side, it was assigned to Homeland Security and Transportation, chaired by Senator Kreider. in that committee, we were able to get it amended so that it required only unrestricted funds to be considered as part of that formula of 30%. Bear with me. I'm going to try to share my screen and let you see that. So here was our proposed language this is yesterday. I apologize. The original amendment that was done in Homeland Security required the use of a CIP, a capital improvement plan. Now, this goes back to 2019 when we negotiated the use of a CIP in place of, at the time, they were looking at eliminating township boards and saying that we had too high of cash balances, so they were going to do some sort of reform to us, and sat down at the table with then Representative Cindy Zemke. Chairman Buck joined in to help defend townships within the conversation, and we all agreed that if we could disclose to the public what the money was earmarked for or what the plans were as to why we were holding on to it, that would be sufficient. At the time, it was the intention that the requirement to do a CIP would be year over year. The DLGF, for some reason, it dropped off, and we only did it in 2020. And you know what was going on in 2020. And so we were desperately trying to get guidance out to everybody as to how to do a CIP. Most people got it done. And we were all required to file, even if we didn't meet the threshold of requirement, which in that statute was if you exceeded 150% of your budget or $200,000. You did not have to complete a CIP. Everyone else was required to do so. So that provision dropped off. It would have been a situation if you didn't file, you would not be able to get your property tax draws. And so it had some serious teeth in it. But again, it was a one and done sort of situation. And so when the conversation began with them talking again about how we're sitting on these piles of money, $700 million plus dollars, it occurred to us that, hey, if we all had CIPs, we could demonstrate this money is set aside for an engine or a community center or a fire station, whatever it might be. We would be able to disclose that. And furthermore, there are a lot of funds that are restricted. Like we can't just use fire funds for township assistance, right? They are restricted for the use for which they were taxed. And you can see here on your screen that this was a further amendment we worked on after our amendment made it in Homeland Security. It was reassigned to Senate Appropriations, where it was heard yesterday. And we were successful in getting this amendment in. This amendment, you can see here, there are 6 categories in which these funds are clearly restricted, but the way it's written is unrestricted funds means cash reserves that are not obligated by your budget for the next year, committed to your township's capital improvement plan, encumbered by a contract or purchase order, restricted for a specific use by state or federal law or other applicable state or federal rule. And that would include for example, what I just gave you, fire fund by state law, that is restricted by a contractual obligation or restricted by a third party, which picks up, say, our representative payee accounts and things like that. This captures if you have bond revenue, grant revenue, all these sorts of funds that we have that technically we cannot use for any other purpose than how they are set aside. So all of that will go on our CIPs each year, and failure to do so can result in your property taxes not being distributed to you. So it's got some serious bite in it, but that's what we have to do at this juncture. We have to do something bold and serious in order to get an amendment in that would at least protect all of those funds. Okay, so I think I'll pause here and see what questions you might have on just 1461. If you could just unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Debbie. This is Cody. One point of clarity, our last call like this, we talked about how it was at that time our understanding that the bill would have impacted, say, like the funds we had in Trust Indiana. Is that explicitly covered in one of these 6 categories? And if it is part of the capital improvement plan side, I apologize. I wasn't in office in 2020, so I haven't had any
No,
familiarity
investments are included in the whole picture.
Okay.
So you would have to include on your CIP the intended use for those invested funds.
Okay.
Okay, so just saving money for the purpose of saving or holding on to money is what this is driving at getting to.
Okay.
If you don't have a specific purpose for which you are accumulating funds, those are going to be tapped at 30% of whatever your budget is and taken from the unrestricted fund pot, if you will. This is how we understand it, is there will be 2 pots, restricted, unrestricted. When you make your budget, you will be budgeting perhaps from both buckets. Maybe just from restricted. But if your budget is 100,000, or I'll make it easy, 900,000, $300,000 potentially could have to be moved to the road fund if in the unrestricted bucket you have that much.
Okay.
That's how we understand it.
Thank you.
And I do see a question going back on conference committee. Kathy, did that get explained? I see that someone gave an explanation. So I hope that cleared that up. Rita, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, I'm asking Debbie, we built buildings and we still have
Hey,
some.
Rita,
Yes,
I can't make out what you're saying. You're really muffled.
okay.
There you go.
Okay. We built our new township office in the community building. We still have a little bit yet to pay on it, and we used it from our rainy day fund. But here's where I am. I am concerned about township assistance because last year we had budgeted $69,500. We had to do additional appropriations that year because it went over 89,000.
Right.
So we took it from there. Is that one of the things that we can justify?
Well, I assume that the additional appropriation was from your township assistance fund, your poor relief fund.
It was from both. It was from our rainy day and from our a township assistance budget.
Right. Well, we have I don't know how to assure all of you how hard this whole thing has been worked on to try to get off of that, give them everything but 15%. That's where we started. Okay.
Okay,
And
okay,
now this is where we are. And unfortunately, rainy day funds are subject to, to the 30%, right? Now,
okay,
I will tell you that once your board adopts a CIP that you present, it can be changed. In
okay,
other words, you can revise it and um, take it back to your board. So
okay.
there are ways to do constructive planning, if you will. And once all the dust settles on this, we will be able to give guidance on, maybe some tips on how to budget, tips on how to do your CIP so that you can protect, especially for having to do an additional appropriation for township assistance. If you're going to have to draw from your rainy day fund and those are not protected, obviously that's a problem, but it's not a problem that we could overcome on this session. Um, we don't know if next year we can get anything adjusted. We would certainly, if 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 there were an author that were willing to work with us, there's always the hope that you can go back and try to fix the things that they got wrong. Um,
Okay,
no guarantee to that. So
okay.
I kind of I tried to answer your question, Rita, but the truth of the matter is this is not good. I mean, our preference would be this thing would just go away.
Yes,
And if there had been any chance of us getting this taken out completely, we would have gotten it done. But it was made clear from the get-go that townships, all taxing units, all local government were going to be involved in the road funding bill. And so that includes us. So we went to the table with them in good faith to say, okay, if we have to participate, then here are some things that we are asking for, right? And we asked for the CIP so that we had the opportunity to say, hey, in my rainy day fund, it is set aside for this, or it's set aside for that. My cash balances are all there for a reason.
yes,
So
yes,
we're trying to get at these more dormant funds or feral, if you will, that are not readily needed. Um, I hope that makes sense, but I'm
it does.
guessing we
It
have
helps.
some. Okay.
Thank
Kevin
you.
Hanover Township. Kevin?
Yeah, hey, Debbie, I don't, I just want to, would cume funds be not part of this according to like number 4 there, because it's like a restricted fund or,
I believe those are restricted funds by state law.
okay, that's what I thought. I just didn't know if they had
Mhm.
mentioned that.
That is our understanding. Yes, those are restricted funds.
Okay,
So again, it really pretty much boils down to your general fund and your rainy day fund. Okay. Casey?
Just clarification, does the CIP have to be effective prior to July 1st, or can it be after that?
I thought that it was July 1st was the effective date of,
Reason I'm saying is we just last year we just purchased a fire engine and purchased a township office.
right?
Uh, and we did a $1.1 million bond, and the payback plan of that bond was through our township fund and our rainy day fund. And
Right.
so,
Yeah, that'll show up on your CIP and then that won't be touched. Debt service.
okay, so because it's being paid through the debt service, then so do I need to establish a, because I'll be honest with you, I don't know that we went through the bond the bond counsel and all of that. I mean, like, our attorneys handled all of it. I didn't really do much
Right.
with that. So is that something that's probably still protected then?
Oh, yeah. If you look at our list here of unrestricted funds, you can see that those funds that you just described are most likely encumbered by a contract. Bond monies are restricted for a certain purpose with state and federal laws.
Okay.
Or you could look at the contractual obligation.
And
So,
is this essentially then self-reported? That
yes,
means, okay, so if we're just saying, hey, we don't, I mean, obviously we're not lying, but if we're saying, okay, we have $228,000 cash balance here in this town rainy day fund, but all of it's planned for this, so we have $0 left over in this rainy day fund, then we would just say, hey, there's nothing to give you on our 30%
Right.
or 50%. Is that correct?
that is correct. We did some spot analysis and found that there were quite a few townships that we selected to run this on that were down to 0. So,
And
that
I'm
is not
assuming,
out of the
obviously,
picture.
you've probably told the legislators this, because I think there's a pretty massive misunderstanding that we're just sitting on all this cash doing nothing.
Oh,
The
yeah,
problem is like they're enacting this law that's going to take away from, frankly, a lot smaller townships than mine. I can think of all other townships in Boone County. None of them have a budget even close to ours because of the population.
Mhm.
And Zionsville and Whitestown both reorganized, and neither of those have townships. So,
Right,
in our case in Boone County, I can imagine where it was going to deplete the funds of these smaller townships,
right,
and they're not going to take anything from us, most likely.
right. That was the whole idea of putting us in this bill, was to deplete what they think is just money laying around. The CIP will demonstrate, no, it's not just money that we're sitting on, it has a specific purpose. So like on the first fiscal that came out on the House bill, it showed my township as sitting on 235% of my budget. Well, no, when we ran the numbers and took out bond revenue and so forth, I was at 36% of my budget, which my financial advisor says, he'd like to see it at 50. But nonetheless, I'm in that sweet spot between the recommendation of having a 25% and 50. So you see, as we ran a lot of samples, we saw clearly that $700+ million included lots of restricted funds. And that's why it was very important that we got the CIP, and secondly, that we got this definition so there's no ambiguity as to what the bill means. So this was extremely important to us, and we're very grateful that yesterday they accepted the amendment in appropriations. So now this bill will go to the Senate floor, I believe Monday, for second reading. Okay, and then we'll see if the House concurs with the changes made in the Senate. That's the hope, so it keeps it from going to conference committee. So if you have contact with your reps and your senators, we need how the bill left appropriations yesterday to stay as it is, unless they want to just take us out. That's not going to happen. But we need the bill intact, and we need the House to just concur with the changes that were made in the Senate. That's very important to us. Okay. Other questions on 1461 before we move on to Senate Bill 1?
Sorry, I don't know how to do a hand raise thing, so.
All right. Hi, Kathy.
Good morning. I know, looking at this is not exactly what we all wanted, but I just, first of all, want to say thank you to you and all of your team that has worked so hard from where it started, which would have been catastrophic. So first of all, thank you for that. And we just now have to move forward. And but I want to thank you because of everything you've done and how hard you've worked on this. And I know you have. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And I mean, I absolutely could not have done this without a good team. The people that played a part in this have expertise way beyond mine on financial things. And in fact, Angel Valentin was extremely instrumental in deciphering things. Drew Durham, Jeff Bellamy, and many more. I shouldn't even try to list them because I'm going to forget somebody. But as far as drilling down on the financial end of things, much appreciation goes to Angel and Drew. In fact, right now, as we move on to Senate Bill.
I do have one question.
Oh,
for
I'm
you.
sorry. Yes.
That's okay.
Go ahead,
So,
Kathy.
So going back with, I know Kevin had asked about Cume Fire being unrestricted.
Mhm.
So everything where I had read, and I'm trying, I can't find it right now. The only two things that were listed that I saw as unrestricted were fire, didn't say Cume, it said fire and EMS, and then the township assistance. So you do believe that Cume Fire is one of the restricted funds as well?
I'm not going to testify to that, but I believe Angel is on here. Angel, do you have a handle on that?
Our understanding is that, at least the IPA's understanding, as we've had conversations, is that the unrestricted funds are just the general and the rainy day funds, because the fire and EMS is still restricted specifically to fire protection.
The solution, if it's the other way, the solution would be to take your CUME monies and include them on your CIP as to why you are accumulating funds there.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
And
Debbie?
Just hold on just a second. Kathy, are you done?
yeah, I had one other thought. I'm trying to think when you said that about the Cume Fire. Yeah, I know what I was gonna say too, is I think Cody had referred to Trust Indiana as an investment. And maybe you can clarify this, but my understanding is Trust Indiana is considered the same as having any other checking account. It's not considered an investment. It's just like another bank account.
Okay.
Yeah, and the difference with that is under investment, you have to do a reporting every year of your investments. You don't have to do that with Trust Indiana. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Bill?
Debbie?
Oh, John?
Debbie?
Sorry. Yes?
Yes, Debbie. You know, one of the things that bothered me about this, and I wrote to my senator and rep, in fact, my rep actually signed on to this. I want to know how, when a time when we're preached to about transparency, how do they figure this in? In other words, a township budget doesn't show money going to roads.
Nope.
The county budget does. You got the county highway, that part of the county budget, and that's transparent.
Right.
Now they preach to us about transparency. This is a joke, and that's exactly what I told Senator Holman and Heine.
Yep. And John, I can't tell you how many times we asserted that in testimony, one-on-one, and every opportunity in committee, that listen, when we tax folks and tell them that it's for a certain purpose, and then we spend it on something else, how is that right? I don't even think it's ethical.
No, that's the word I use. It's not ethical.
Right. And so we made that argument, and I think that is what helped us frankly, get the CIP provision and the definition in, was based on that argument that we want to be transparent. Yes, we will participate per the General Assembly's expectation, but certainly not at the levels that they expected. And I said we were going to move on to Senate Bill 1, but I see there's another question here on the chat. How is 30% going to be differentiated between townships, or will it go in one pot and the county decides what roads to work on? No, the townships, we will all be required to establish a new fund called Road and Infrastructure Fund. And into that, we will be placing the monies. Then if a city or county wants to do a road or infrastructure project in your township, they can ask for your participation. If you don't like the project, you don't have to participate. In fact, you could suggest, hey, I don't want to help with, that over here. I see more of a need, and I'm glad to work with you on getting that done. I mean, we still have some bit of say in where the monies go. But they have to be held there, and you can't use them for any other purpose. But it has to be for a project that's in your township. Okay. Do we have a sample CIP resolution? No, that will be something that the DLGF by this bill will have to put together. If we do not have a CIP, should we work on one now or wait until July 1? It wouldn't hurt to go ahead and examine what funds you have and start thinking in your mind, putting down what your board were planning to do as far as capital projects, capital improvements going forward. If we had one in 2020, how do we find it? Well, your predecessor should have filed it in the office. That's the only way I know to find it. Okay. All right. Any other questions out there before we move on?
I have a quick question on
Okay.
the CIP.
Yes.
You mentioned about filing at the office. Should it have been uploaded to Gateway at all, or was that just something that's filed locally?
I believe we had to, I forget how they had us send those. I don't remember, and I'm sorry if it were through Gateway, but I don't believe they're on the part of Gateway that we can access. In other words, just like we do our monthly uploads for State Board of Accounts, we don't have access to those records. Okay, so it was the same deal. Would it be the board or trustee deciding to assist? It would be both. Just like your budget. Okay. And thank you, Casey. In the chat, Casey drew out why he believes the fire cum fund would be restricted and some of the statutes there. Thank you, Casey. All right. So now let's go on and let's talk about Senate Bill 1. And I've asked Angel to give us an overview of what the bill does as far as how we are impacted. So Angel, can you come on and share with us those thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it a high level overview for Debbie's asking. She knows I can get into the weeds. So for townships, we're anticipated to lose approximately $19 million in property tax revenues in 2026, a little over 21 and 27, and 25.5 and 28. So as a whole, over the 1,002 townships, that's anticipated to be 5.2 to 6.4% losses in the next 3 years. Caveat on that doesn't include cum fire funds. That wasn't included in the analysis, at least for my township. So I envisioned that it wasn't included for everybody. The ITA, same as other groups, were concerned about the elimination of the 3-year appeal. So I know that some of us, not all of us, but some of us are in really fast growing communities and townships. And a challenge for that elimination will be that it'll prevent us from being able to increase our levies as our communities grow. So our levies will stagnate compared to the growth in our community. With the elimination of the 3-year appeal, unfortunately, there won't be any mechanism for those levies to grow faster than the state's MLGQ. The only exception still out there would be for for the fire fund, the 1111 fund, or if you're in a territory, that same provision or district, for increasing your maximum levy based on 10-year population growth. That one wasn't touched, so that one's still on the books. The second portion of what this does is that it changes the LIT structure, the local income tax structure across the state. Right now, townships are automatic recipients of local income tax revenues for certified shares. Those certified shares are going away. Everything is going to be in a different structure. And so there will be 2 local income tax revenue streams that county councils can establish that we'd be eligible for, but we'd still be at the discretion. That would still be at the discretion of our. Let me see if I can move. I apologize. I didn't realize it was that noisy. So the townships are anticipated to lose those revenues that I mentioned, and then starting in 2028, we will lose the ability to automatically receive local income tax revenues. Those will be at the discretion of our respective county councils as to whether we receive any local income tax funds. And so the 2 revenue streams that are going to be created is 1, non-municipal LITs. So the county council can establish up to 4 of those, basically, for different unit types, and they can go up to 0.05%. Townships would be one of those categories that they could establish a lit rate for. But unlike the current structure, it would be distributed based on a per capita basis. So if they collect $100,000 from this lit and you have 25% of all of the population in the county, you'd be able to get 25% of that lit revenue. And that's based on the last census. The second portion, and so quick note on that, for townships that had higher levies, then that might mean a reduction in how much lit you have. For townships that had low levies, it might mean an increase potentially in how much lit you have. But it's really hard to calculate. So everyone's county is going to be different. The second one that is available is a fire and EMS lit. Now, the fire and EMS lit can be established, again, by the county council with a rate of up to 0.4%. But this funding would be distributed based on population and service area. And unfortunately, we're not included as automatic recipients, very similar to the public safety lit. This lit rate, if adopted, automatically applies to municipal fire departments, fire districts, and fire territories, but township fire departments and volunteer fire departments are not automatically included. They can be included at the discretion of the county council. There's still some contradictory language remaining in the legislation. I imagine that will be stuff that we'll need to work on in the next couple of legislative sessions to make sure that before it goes live in 2028, that language is correct on the technical side, so we know what to expect. The short version of it is we're going to lose revenue from property taxes up to 6.5% or so across the board, across the whole state, and people need to start cozying up to their county councils. That's the second portion of it, I guess.
Angel, this is Cody. During the appropriations meeting or the session the House had, excuse me, on Wednesday, one of the speakers also mentioned that the bill explicitly the Amendment 36, which was passed, did something to change like the debt structures. And I didn't really follow what they were saying in the session very well, but I was curious if you had any read on that as well.
As far as we can tell, that hasn't been an area that ITA has really droned in on. It seems to really be target and deck structures for state, for school districts and municipalities. It doesn't seem to be to the level that it would affect us significantly, but I don't have a ton of detail on that and what that looks like.
When will this take effect, and will we have to have the county council approve our budget?
So this would take effect, and the lit language would take effect July 1st of 2027. So essentially, it's for 2028 disbursements. The county council won't have to approve your budget per se. It'll still be at the discretion of your local board. But given that you have to ask for money, there is essentially review that they are able to look at before making decisions as to whether you receive money. Now, for the purpose of the non-municipal general purpose lit, so that's the one that would be closest to your certified shares right now. That one, if you have to every year request to be included in that, and there isn't a mechanism for the county to say no, as far as we can tell. So if you request it, you're going to be included if they set up a rate for townships. If they don't set up a rate for townships, then townships don't get any local income taxes there. For the fire and EMS one, I would imagine that they would be taking a much closer look. Not that they have to, but I would envision that that'll be part of what a lot of councils determine, right? So they're gonna pick and choose favorites is our concern, right? And if they have different priorities or don't agree with our expenses, they could say that they aren't going to include us on the fire and EMS lit.
Well, my concern is our fire territory. If they still going to mess with that finances, it's hard to keep it going the way it is. Are they?
Well, so fire territories, if you're in a fire territory, then you're on the fortunate side. So if the county does establish a fire and EMS lit rate, you guys would automatically be recipients of those funds. So fire territories are included as automatic recipients. Now, it's still at the discretion of the county council whether such a lit rate is established in the first place. But if they do establish it, the fire territory would automatically receive funding from it, is our understanding. There's still some, again, they missed some language that was previously there and they didn't clean it up. So it's currently a little murky, but clear what the intention is. And I think that that's more of going after a legislative fix to make sure that that gets fixed. Saw a question there. Is there any chance of townships being included in the lit? Is that, Casey, is that a question about the fire and EMS lit? Or the general purpose township lit? Okay, so for the fire, I mean, I know that in conversations, the legislative committee, that's been a priority for us. But we haven't seen movement. It's been described a couple of times as saying that this doesn't change the structure. We already had to go and ask for public safety tax dollars. This just keeps the same control at the county level. Instead of the local income tax council, it's controlled by the county level. We've talked in-house about some provisions that could be done to make sure that townships are automatic recipients, and that we've discussed, in the group, could it be set up? Would it be feasible to push for this language to be refined to include everybody as an automatic recipient, or to base it have a factor based on your staffing level? So in communities where it's all volunteers, everybody would be at the same level. But if it's a community where you have different gradients of fire protection, where you are able to have like factors assigned to it, because a volunteer fire department might not need as much as a career department, and all of those pieces. But right now, as the language sits, the way that it's going to pass this legislative session, there isn't a way for us to be an automatic recipients. But I can't imagine that the ITA won't be pushing for change to that language to make sure that we have some level of guaranteed funding for fire and EMS lit to make up for our losses in revenue.
Any other questions for Angel on Senate Bill 1? We don't like it. Nobody likes it.
Yeah.
Nobody. Except the lawmakers like it, but none of the taxing units like what they've done. And we discovered with the amendment that was offered the other day on the floor on second reading, there's stuff in there that, for example, the dissolving a local school corporation, and they were not given any notice, no hearing, nothing. They're just saying away with you, and it was hidden in the bill. So I'm guessing that here in the next few weeks, especially after the governor signs it and we know it's a go, the analysis will continue by us and others to really get a handle on what all is in this bill. It's hundreds of pages long. It's a lot to digest and decipher. And all I can tell you is we will continue to work on it.
Yeah. I can tell you also that for across our community, again, it's still a complex bill, and it changes and bifurcates lit rates across our communities. But the short of it is that they're changing the responsibility, right? So they're decreasing property taxes and celebrating it, but county councils and cities are going to have to increase local income taxes on residents and have them take the blame for it, essentially. So I anticipate that we will have to work closely with these county council members to make sure that we are included and that we can they prioritize funding for us, because we need it. The losses in revenue will impact the services that we provide for residents. And even if it is an increase in local income tax, that's, I think, what we'll need to do to be able to continue to provide the critical services that our townships provide across the state. So,
yes. And, now you kind of bumped on this a little bit on Hell, but now is the time for us to start, if you haven't already, to really start building a relationship with your county council members, your county commissioners. I mean, these are the folks that are going to have an impact on township government going forward. Okay. So, and of course, if you're not on this call next time, we'll probably be really laying it down that this summer, if you don't have a good relationship with your state rep or your senator, now is the time. We're going to need you next session. And I'm going to give a little forecast here. By the way, thank you, Angel, for going over Senate Bill 1. It's very complex, and appreciate your help, all the time that you have spent poring over all of this language. We appreciate you.
thank you. Just one of many trustees that have been doing all that work.
Yes, absolutely. But as far as the future goes, next session and from the end of, well, really from right now until we get through the 2026 session, ITA will be working with lawmakers to reform township government. You may not like hearing that. There will be lots of time for everybody to give their input into this, but we absolutely do not have any choice. It has been made abundantly clear that if we don't come forward with our merger plan, they will go for elimination. And we are hearing this from the House and the Senate in high places of leadership. Okay, we must develop a plan. All right. We have had a team working on the outline of a plan all session because we had to be able to speak back. We were questioned when we were testifying on Senate Bill 1 in the House. In Ways and Means, they started questioning us on why we don't have a merger plan, totally unrelated to the bill, drilling down on us on why we don't have a merger plan. Why have people not, these townships haven't merged? Telling us that, one-on-one, at least many have said, you should have come with a bill. You should have come with a merging bill. Now, just so you know, behind the scenes, we did pitch a merging bill, but the people that we were directed to pitch it to by leadership didn't pick up on it this session. They turned it down and stated they would rather go for elimination. So for those of you that have been around a while, and you've probably heard me and others go on and on about develop relationships and they're going to try to eliminate us. We knew this day was coming. It's been boiling up for several years. And here we are. We are now at the place where there is absolutely no choice but to get on board. All right. If we don't provide the framework for doing it, they are going to do it. And I guarantee we're not going to like how they do it. We can see that with these two bills we've been talking about. Do we like how they go about things? Absolutely not. Do they understand who we are and what we do? No, they don't. And I'll tell you, a handful of us down at the State House trying to educate 150 plus one people that have authority over our destiny. It's a revolving door with elections. Every 2 years, that house moves and we have new people to educate. We desperately need each one of you and your neighbors to be working on those relationships now. And when I say relationships, they should be invited to see your way you work, what you do. They need to hear real live examples of what's going on in your township, or we could be gone. And I'm sure there are a lot of you on this call that share at least my personal sentiment. This is what I was called to do. Being a trustee is my heart and soul on, aside from my family, this is my life. And I'm guessing a lot of you share that sentiment. And so if that's the case, then we are in the fight of our lives. All right. We are fighting for the people we serve because we believe that we are the best unit of government to serve because we are the most local unit. And I sat with a mayor the other night and a county commissioner who both said, and they're leaders in their associations, they both said, we have too many layers of government. And we're the low-hanging fruit. So the fight continues. We have gone through the battle this session, but I just want to prepare you for 2026 and the work that lies ahead for all of us between now and then to prepare ourselves, to prepare our plan, and to work on those relationships. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Can't hear you, Miller.
okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
You're just kind of muffled.
Well, I don't know why it is. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
How long does it take to actually merge two townships? How much time?
60 days is what Lydia is telling me. Lydia's sitting here and she's had the successful merger. 2 hearings. You got to develop a plan.
Yeah.
And we have a team. Lydia is leading the quest to get out and about the state to meet with counties or townships that are interested in merging. She has a successful merger. She has data. She can best guide you in that effort. So all you have to do is to reach out through the ITA email address or to Lydia directly and give her several weeks notice as to when you want to meet and she'll make it happen. Right, Lydia?
Yep.
She's on board. And Flory is she's paired up with Flory because Flory has she's the provider of a successful fire territory. Lots of questions around that as well. So we have a team that are ready to come.
And Debbie, this is Chad, but is it
Election
still that
year.
mergers
Okay,
can
hold
only
on.
happen?
Hold on, Chad, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to clarify that mergers still cannot happen during an election year. So if it does not happen this year,
Right.
it will have to
Yeah, I
wait
know
till
that.
27.
That's what I'm saying. That's the reason I asked it. We started to do that once before and it got kind of messed up. And I know we can't do it on an election year, which is coming up in 26. I would like to get it done by about a couple more townships in this year. If they understand the urgency of this, if they're going to stay townships, then we better to get it done. And I've been hollering this for a long time. You know that. So anyhow, okay. Thank you. I'll be getting hold of you.
Very good. Any other questions? All right. You've been great. We're always here for you. If you want to reach out, email is best. Through the ITA email is really best. And then it'll get sent to whoever is best to reply to you. So thank you all. And I wish you a happy spring. And don't forget these dates. All right, let me get them up here for you. May 7th, we have our quarterly seminar is on township assistants, a full day of training for township assistants. You can register online on the website. And our next legislative briefing is to be determined. It will be most likely after session closes for a recap. If we need to meet sooner, you'll get notice of that. Okay. So, yes.
Could you make sure to remind folks about the dates for the trainings that are coming up here in the next few weeks?
Yes, May 7th, right here is Township
the
Assistance
state
Training.
mandated.
Pardon?
The state mandated meeting, sorry.
Oh, state mandated meetings. Yes. I hope that you're all aware that you need to attend one of the SBOA's mandated trainings. I believe next Wednesday is Fort Wayne. I don't have that in front of me. Can anybody help with those dates? They're on the SBOA website for sure. I think next week is Fort Wayne and the following week is LaPorte, followed by Fishers the next week. So
I've got it here. So it's
oh, go ahead.
So we just had 2 already. So we had Madison, Indiana, and Vincennes the last 2 weeks. Next week is Fort Wayne, like you mentioned, LaPorte, and then Fishers. So the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th are the next 3: Fort Wayne, LaPorte, and Fishers. So those you'll want to make sure if you haven't attended in 2 years or make sure you're trying to attend those.
Absolutely. Thank you, Angel, and thank you all. I'll bid you adieu.
Hey Debbie, it's Robin. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Hey, is there a draft available of the merger?
We have a draft that it's just that. It is a draft and we haven't circulated it yet because we are trying to be sure that it's the best path forward as an idea. So I hope we can circulate that very soon.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you for all you do, Debbie.
Thank you
Thank you.
all of you too. Thank you. Thank you, Flory.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
week. Yeah.
Stop it. Oh, there it is. Like